Hey, thanks for stopping by. A lot of us, when we look at myth and stories from mythology, we make one key mistake, and it keeps us from interacting with the myths in any way that's kind of meaningful. And then there's an easy fix for how to do better. So I want to explain that, but first, let me set that idea up by telling you a story. It's about Theseus. He's the young and handsome prince of Athens, and he volunteers for a life threatening mission to face the famous Minotaur. The Minotaur is the half man, half bull creature, and the Minotaur lives within the mysterious labyrinth. It's this like life size maze, and it's on the nearby island of Crete. Now, nobody has ever faced the Minotaur and lived. And if anybody had been able to go into the labyrinth and defeat the beast, they still would have died in the maze because of its twisting and turning pathways that are impossible to escape. Okay? Now, because of his strength and skill, not to mention the favor of the Olympian gods, Theseus does what no one has ever been able to do. He meets the Minotaur and defeats him in hand-to-hand combat. But this success is really only a partial victory because he still has to find his way out of the labyrinth. Okay, how does he do that? Well, when he first lands on Crete, he meets Ariadne, and she's the princess of Crete. And she immediately falls in love with Theseus. She loves him so much, in fact, that she decided to betray her father, King Minos, as well as her country to help the prince escape the maze. So she gives him a ball of thread that he unwinds as he enters the labyrinth. And once he defeats the Minotaur, he uses that thread to trace his way back to where he started. That's how he finds his way out of the maze. Now, we could go a million directions in this story. In fact, there's so many plot elements that I'm leaving out here. This is just one aspect of it. But I want to work with this. I want to use this to explain to you what I mean about the mistake that people make when they look at myth. And the mistake is they feel like they're supposed to interpret it. They're supposed to come at it from this. It's like, the way you look at literature, where you go, all right, the white whale in Moby Dick represents democracy, and it's a statement about America, and da 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 da. It's not that you can't do that. It's just that it's going to leave you on the outside if you do that. It leaves you separated from what's going on in the story. That's the mistake. We come at it left brain interpretively. The fix? Just remember one thing. Every character in every story is you. That's the idea. If you can put yourself in the position of these characters, that's how you start going, I can pull something out of this. Okay, so let's use this story to look at it. So let's imagine now that you are in a relationship, all right? And you're in a relationship with somebody where you want more from them than what they are giving you. I don't know, just use that as an example. Now, if you are Theseus and you're thinking, if you are putting yourself in the position of Theseus and you walk into that maze, just imagine that now you have walked in and you're Theseus and you're thinking to yourself, that is the most amazing woman that I've ever known. Look at how she is so devoted to me, and she's giving up everything to help me. And you're walking along and you're holding the thread knowing she's holding it back there, and you just think, and you're so grateful for her. And so maybe you give the thread a little tug just to know she's there, and she tugs back and you go, I love that girl. So then you walk a little further and things are good, and you walk and you're turning corners and you're thinking, man, I'm glad she's back there. She's back there, right? And you tug. Sure enough, here comes the tug back. As you go farther, at one point you tug and it takes a little bit longer for her to tug back, and you're like, well, isn't she even paying attention? And as you go farther, it takes longer for her to tug back at times, but she gives you the little yank, and still you start going, well, I hope she's there. Why is it taking her? Is she not even paying attention? Now, you go on, you defeat the Minotaur, You follow the thread all the way back, and you step out of the labyrinth. And she's there, and you're all bloody, and she embraces you, and you embrace her back. And you say, "Oh my God, thank God you were here." And she said, "Thank God you're safe." And she says, "Wait a minute, what do you mean, thank God I'm here?" And he goes, "Well, I'm just glad you were here because, a couple times I just wasn't sure." And she said, "What do you mean? I was here the entire time. I was pulling on the thread every time you pulled." And he said, "Well, kind of, but sometimes it took a little while. And that one time I kept pulling and you weren't even responding." And she was like, "Well, I had to go to the bathroom. One time I ran to the bushes and I ran back. I didn't even go home or anything." And now she starts feeling angry, and you start recognizing, and all of a sudden, now, at this moment, pull back, become yourself again, and in that position, and when you've put yourself in that position of Theseus, you've gone, this is a pattern I have in my relationship with this other person. Now, the other person also, you might put yourself in that position. And if you're Ariadne and you go, all right, I've sacrificed everything for this person I love, and they still can't trust that I'm going to be here. Now, Ariadne has some work she needs to do. And in fact, as the story goes on, I didn't say this a minute ago, but as the story goes on, they have to run for their lives because now they have killed the Minotaur. So they run and jump on Theseus' ships and with all his men, and they start sailing, and they're going to go home back to Athens. And but they can't get far enough, so that night they stop on the island of Naxos, and they sleep. And the next morning they're going to go back home. Well, Ariadne, she wakes up the next morning, and Theseus is gone. He has left with all his men, and she has been abandoned. What do you do with that? Well, once again, you put yourself in each person's position. And if you sort of identify with Ariadne, if her experiences resonate with you, you might go, this is what I need. I need to be abandoned. I need to have whoever I've been giving everything for, I need for them to leave me, and I have to figure things out on my own. I don't know. You can go a million different directions, but you see the point. You're going to look and you're going to say, all right, if I'm Theseus, what is it about me that goes into the labyrinth and isn't sure he can fully trust that she's going to be pulling the thread? Or if you're Ariadne, you're like, why am I still giving everything for this person who doesn't fully trust me? You see what I mean? You can go in lots of different directions. Then the abandonment. What happened that Theseus felt like he needed to leave? What happened to Ariadne that in that moment, all of a sudden, she has to figure out who she is when there's nobody there that she can give her life to? These are all of the moments in the story that are taking place. And if you will read them, not to go, does Theseus represent something in terms of an intellectual argument that da-da-da? That's not what you're doing. Instead, you're saying, where am I like this character? Where am I like this character? Where do I resonate? What part of me goes, yeah, there's something going on that I identify with there. If you can go there, that's the number one thing that I recommend. If you want to get something out of mythology, just remember every character in every story is you. Thanks, y'all.